we are back in Rapides Detention Center, 1028, just for the record. Teresa?
This is the case for Tedyy Aguillard, DOC 720193. We have Chad Aguillard, who's the brother who would like to speak in support. And at the same location, we have Lisa Aguillard, who's the wife who would like to speak in support.
Right. Please state your name and DOC number for the record.
My name is Tedyy Aguillard. My DOC number is 720193.
Tedyy, my name is Brennan Kelsey. I'll be a chair along with me is Ms. Cheryl Renatza and Mr. Tony Marabella will be the panel. Today we'll have a parole hearing. We'll ask you some questions. You can respond. At the end, you can make a statement. We'll take a vote. You understand the process?
Sure.
Tedyy Aguillard, DOC number 720193. First class offender, not eligible for good time. Full term date 2/23/2024. 5-year sentence. Indecent behavior with a juvenile, 2 count. Does that sound correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, would you answer Mr. Marabella's questions, please?
Sure.
Mr. Aguillard, would you give me your full name, please?
My name is Tedyy Aguillard.
Mr. Aguillard, I'm going to ask you a few questions. My name is Tony Marabella. How old are you, sir?
I am now 51 years old.
And you were convicted by a jury of 2 counts of indecent behavior with a juvenile, is that correct?
Sir.
How long have you been in prison?
Almost 2 years.
Tell me in your words what happened. I mean, you obviously deny this, at least that's what it appears from the report. So tell me what happened. The jury
Yes,
has found you guilty, so you tell me your story.
Yes, sir. I had driving school and I was driving to my students. And as we was going down this road, on the side of the road in somebody's yard is about a 12 to 14 foot concrete rooster. And I pointed at the rooster and asked in a jokingly manner if they want to see a big white cock. And, as a joke. And they took it, apparently the parents took it the wrong way.
How old were these girls?
Either 15 or 16 years old. They were trying to get their
What other way would someone take that comment?
Honestly, being at their age, I knew they was going to take it as a joke, because they pretty much, at that age, take everything in that manner. So even though I'm in it as a,
you were how old?
I was 45, I believe.
And what was your job?
I was a driving instructor.
You were a driving instructor for juveniles, teaching them how to drive? And you think that was appropriate language to be talking to teenage girls?
No, sir. My excuse at the time was that it's called the cock and the hen, but I realized that it was, not a very smart thing to do.
Well, your record seems to suggest that this may not have been the first time you were accused of something like that. Is that a fact?
Yes, sir. But that was with some adults.
And what was that about?
Same thing. We just were having a jokingly adult conversation. That I was kind of known for joking with people. That was why people come to my class. One of the reasons they enjoyed it, because I did joke around a lot with people.
There's joking and then there's committing crimes.
Yeah, I realize that now, sir. Yes, sir.
Have you had any sex offender training while you've been in prison?
No, sir. Where I'm currently at, don't offer any classes like that.
Well, now that you've been in prison for a while, what are your thoughts about what you did?
Well, I've learned that it's really important to watch what you say to people and how you say it to people. And to consider their feelings and thoughts on how they're going to take what comes out of my mouth.
Well, how about your attitude about what you say? I mean, I haven't heard you say anything about what I said was inappropriate. All I'm hearing you say is they took it the wrong way. They couldn't take a joke. I mean,
No,
what have you learned about yourself in what you did?
like I said, I've learned that I got to watch what I say to people, and that it was not a very smart thing to do at all. And like I said, I really learned you got to think about what you're going to say before you say it, and think how the people's going to take it, and how, and just not to, I don't know, but I've learned you got to really watch what you say and how you say, because it all has consequences.
Well, how about how you think?
Yes, sir.
You know, it's one thing to talk about what you're going to say, how you say something. It's what you said, not necessarily how you said it. That
Yes,
is
sir.
the issue here. It's your thought process.
Yeah, I think what I'm saying isn't coming out right, but the whole thought process has changed. That's what I'm saying.
Well, let me ask you a question. You were out on bond for a while and you had an ankle bracelet. Is that right?
Sure.
Were there other conditions of your bond? Were you required to get any sort of mental health counseling or therapy or anything like that?
Sir.
No? Have you done anything like that?
No, sir. Once again, where I'm currently at doesn't have that type of.
Well, you were out on bond for a good while. How long were you out on bond?
Oh, I was out on bond for right at 2 years, I believe.
It didn't dawn on you at that time, maybe I got some crazy thinking and maybe I should see a counselor or maybe I should see a therapist?
Honestly, no, sir, because I didn't mean it in a sexual way. So, and
What did you mean?
I have no desire to have anything to do with like that with any underage people. So I didn't think I had a problem.
Well, why do you think you have a problem now? Just because you're in jail?
No, sir. Well, I still don't have a problem. I do not want to have any contact with juveniles or kids. From what I was understood, my problem was what I said and who I said it to, of course. But my defense has always been I didn't mean it in a way that I wasn't trying to.
That defense got you in prison.
Yes, sir. It sure did.
And it doesn't seem like you've changed your mind or your attitude about that.
I'm not quite following.
Well, your position is I didn't mean anything bad about it, so I shouldn't be in prison. But obviously, a jury believed otherwise. And the law says otherwise. And you are, in fact, in prison. I don't hear anything about you changing your thought process. I hear you thinking about, well, I should say it a little differently.
Well, no, sir. I shouldn't say it at all. Is what I've learned here too. I mean, I just don't talk like that to anybody anymore, and I won't think like that no more because, like I said, I'm not going to be around anybody underage anymore. I don't have that capacity.
What sort of work are you going to? What kind of work do you normally do?
I was a police officer for a while. I did pest control. I did safety inspections. When I get out, I'm going to work for a farmer with a dirt.
How long were you a driving instructor?
5 years.
Drugs or alcohol? You ever had a problem with those?
No, sir, I don't.
Do you drink?
Socially, yes, sir.
Where you intend on living?
At my house with my wife.
And you haven't had any sort of mental health evaluation or any kind of mental health counseling or sex offender treatment or sex offender counseling since you've been arrested. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir, that is fair to say. However, we already are trying to schedule some. My wife has looked into it on my request to try to get my school scheduled, my sex offender classes scheduled as soon as I get out.
Well, let me ask you this. Why didn't you try to do that while you were out on bond for 2 years on an ankle bracelet?
I just honestly didn't think about it, and it was never brought up to me that it was going to be needed.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Renata.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, now we will hear from supporters. Need to hear from Mr. Chad Aguillard. I'd like to make a statement.
Good afternoon. How you doing? If you don't mind, I'll let my sister-in-law Lisa go first.
Yeah, Lisa, that's fine. Thank you, Lisa.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Aguillard. I'm Teddy's wife. We have been married for 30 years. It's been a long 2 years, but with the grace of God, he's helping me through it. And Teddy has talked to me numerous times, and I have contacted the parole to see about setting him up the sex offender classes. And that will be our first priority if he is released. They said that his parole officer should set him up for that. But I promise if he is released, we will stay on top of that. And I hope and pray that y'all please let him come home.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Chad.
Yes, thank you for letting me speak. First off, I had sent an email out. I just wanted to make sure that y'all had received that and was able to read it.
Sir.
All right, great. Thank you. Also, listen to Mr. Tony's questions and everything else. Once all this has started, you know, Mr. Tony, Teddy's, you know, what he's trying to say is the same thing that you were saying. What the question you was asking him about his way of thinking and stuff. You know, everybody thinks a different way, but he understands now without a doubt, just like anyone with any kind of, you know, capacity to think correctly should, that what he said was, he should not have said it to start off with. Teddy understands it. And that's what he was trying to explain in his way. And some people don't explain things correctly. I'll do the same thing. You know, we all do. And what I would like to say is that, one, we all make mistakes. You know, we all have fault at some point in time. And, you know, Teddy lost his entire livelihood because of the mistakes he made. And he knows he made them. And the thing is that now he needs to be, and he's been talking to us about his path forward. And that's what we want to do. Teddy has a big support group here at home with family and friends to make sure that he's, you know, doing the right things. He's getting the classes for sure of what was asked about. And, you know, we never dealt with none of this. My family has never dealt with none of this. This was the first time I have to deal with anything like that. And it would seem like we was always a step or two behind because we didn't know some of the, you know, the things to do to make things go in our favor, like some people that deal with this all the time do, you know. And because our family is actually a small but close family, and we like to consider ourselves a good Christian family. And a lot of people try to use that when it's needed, but we use that all the time. You know, we believe in God and everything else, and we believe that you make a mistake, you do what you have to do to make it right. You know, Teddy said the wrong things many years ago. He lost his entire livelihood. You know, he served 2 years in jail. You know, we feel that, you know, that 2 years in jail because you said a couple of stupid things, you know, it's okay. You know, now it's time to move on, get your life back, you know, become part of your family again and become a good citizen like everybody else intends you to. And we just hope that we ask, like my sister-in-law asked, that y'all, see it that, in his favor, that y'all release him and let him start his life back over in the right way. And we just ask that y'all have, look in your heart that, he paid his, we feel that he did anyway. And we just hope that y'all do also, and, have a little, compassion and leniency to let Tedyy come out and start getting his life back together. That, we just, that's all we could ask of y'all, and ask to do the right thing.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comment. All right, Tedyy, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Well, what I would like to say is, I truly am sorry for, what I did, what I said. And like I said, I'm not in the capacity to be even around anybody like that. I do believe as it shown when I had my ankle bracelet, I did everything I was supposed to. I didn't get talked to. I didn't have one negative interaction with the ankle bracelet, and I'm pretty positive that I can follow the parole correctly. Like I said, we already taken steps to get classes. We got money saved up to do everything that needs to be done, and I really feel that I can follow the parole procedure and come out, correctly with it.
All right, thank you. Does staff have any input there at the facility? I see you standing there. Any staff, do you have any input about him?
Yes, sir. Name's Lieutenant Jordan at Rapid East Parish. Tedy's been here about 2 years, been in the same job the entire time, been a model inmate. No write-ups, no disciplinary problems. Even going out of his way to do things he's not assigned to try to keep busy.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the input. All right, is the panel prepared to vote?
Yes.
Mr. Sonny Marabella?
Mr. Aguillard, I'm listening to you, and I'm listening to your family, and I hear what they say, and I accept the fact that the 2 years you were out on bond, you didn't get in any trouble. While you've been there, you haven't, obviously, according to the person there, you've been a model prisoner. Those are good things. Your charge is a sex offense. You did some inappropriate things. You say to me, all I did was joking with him. Well, the police report suggests, and the jury found, that you touched yourself inappropriately in front of those girls when you used the word cock. You had a photograph of one of the girls in a bikini, and you discussed that with her, and you talked about her breasts. Those are sexual issues that you have, and you haven't had any treatment for that. Persons who get convicted of sex offenses are required to get sex treatment. You haven't had any. Now, you've been in prison for 2 years, and apparently and unfortunately where you are, there's no treatment for that. I'm hoping to be able to get you some. You were out for 2 years on an ankle brace. This apparently never dawned on you that there was a problem. Someone, hopefully, would have suggested that to you, but it wasn't suggested to you. I cannot, in good conscience, as well as you've behaved in prison, vote to parole you, realizing you could potentially go out there and do something similar until you get some treatment and recognize what the problem is. It's not a matter of joking. It's not a matter of saying inappropriate things. It's how you think, Mr. Aguillard. This is not the first time with juveniles. You say they were adults. The police report suggests these were young ladies that you were teaching to drive in previous relations, regardless of their age. you need sex offender treatment, and I'm not prepared to vote to parole you. So my vote today would be to deny.
Ms. Renata?
Mr. Aguillard, that's why I didn't really have any particular questions of you. The story that we have in the documents that were provided by the court varies from what you said. I agree with everything Mr. Marabella said. My vote today is to deny.
You have 2 votes to deny your parole as well. After listening to everything, I appreciate you, what you're doing there, but you do need some sex offender treatment. I don't really see you showing any remorse for this as well. We would like to see you get your sex offender treatment. You have 3 votes to deny your parole has been denied. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am glad that Mr. Marabella was able to pluck the truth out of him. I mean, this guy is in total denial, or just a complete idiot. He shows up and he says, well, I mean, all I did was say that, do you want to see a big white? And then, no, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the rooster over there. Like, as if like he's a child. And then he sits here and comes to the board and acts like an immature child. This is a former cop. How terrifying is that? He used to work in people's homes. This is a scary dude. When you get into all the details, when he unplucks the truth, you see that like this guy was bad. And I'll share the court dockets with you. Thank you, Richard. It's even worse than what they unfeathered here. I mean, this guy, I believe, just my opinion, that he found a job that he would able to get access to young people, which is a teaching kids how to drive. And the records show that he just from the start of the class started that process of he said everything that happens in class stays in class. When he started the driving, he was commenting on the girls' bodies. He went through their phones. He took their phones, went through their phones, and found pictures of them. That's what they're talking about. And he said, "Who's that?" And she said, "Oh, that's me." She was in a bikini. He said, "That can't be you. You're too small." And he used different words. He used vulgar words. Your chest size is too small. That can't be you. So he starts this process of humiliating, of shaming. He took them to a store. He said, "I'm taking this store to buy a training bra for you." He would talk about highly inappropriate, illegal things in the cars with them. He would pull her hair when he wanted her to get in the car and wanted her to get out of the car. And yet he shows up and he makes it seem like it's just this one statement, this poor guy that he's in jail for this one thing. Poor him. Why did he got such a bad rap? And it's so much more than that. It's amazing that it's great that these 2 girls had the courage to expose him. And then they went to trial, and both those girls had to take the stand. And they do all of that, and they still only give him 5 years after going to trial, which is bizarre. 10 years, it was 5 years each, but to run concurrently. No, to run concurrently. It's really scary. You send your kids, you work so hard on raising your kids. You do everything in your power to make sure that they can have, that you raise them right. Then you send them to a training school. And if it's a small town, you don't have a choice of really even where you send them, probably. There's like the one place that everyone goes to. I know for me, it was, we had a driver, Mr. Van was his name, which is so interesting, I think, when it comes to, there's like a book on that where people's last names somehow do correlate with their living or job or destiny, so to speak. And he was like the ageless old little man who seemed to have taught Abraham Lincoln how to drive. I mean, everyone and their grandfather and their learned how to drive from this guy. And he was a grumpy old man too. I don't know why he did it, because he didn't seem to have the temperament. He didn't seem to have the blood pressure level, but he did it. And by all accounts, he was just, that was just his job. He didn't have any bad, but it's a place of power. When you teach someone to drive, when you're 15, 16 years old, it's the most important thing to you. At least it was to me. And I think many at that age, it's the most important thing. That teacher has power over you, probably more than any other teacher that you'll have in your life. And I mean, I think that it was just a chosen position that he, again, just my opinion. And if you look through his record, it was really a long list of doing pretty scary stuff. He sent, look at his name is his name is, why is it saying Herbert? Because Herbert is like, isn't that the name of the Family Guy? Oh, Pete, what is the Herbert thing? Wait a minute. Okay, now I'm curious, because Herbert would just be way too classic. Why is it? Oh, because I'm like this. This is page 33. Hold on here. Oh, I think I know what that was. They were comparing, I'm sorry. They were comparing it in the appeal to other offenders. Sorry. I was like, wait a minute, Herbert, that's like, what a clout. The moral of the story, don't trust any Herbert. Sorry if there's a Herbert watching this. I know it's not all. What they're doing here in this appeal is they're bringing up other cases as examples to sentencing. So that's why I read Herbert. I am sorry about that. But he was basically saying that the whole thing was in jest and the whole thing was, but no, it was bad, like what I had just explained. But basically, like, what was happening is that he was driving around the bend, and he probably said this joke a bunch of times, I would guess, this joke. And he said, hey, do you want to see a big white, and he would go down to his pants as if to pull it out, and they would freak out and get traumatized. And then he would say, I'm just talking. And then at that moment, he would drive past the big rooster and say, I'm just talking about the rooster. Oh, and they also found stuff on his phone, very explicit things, like he would make it so that they would see the explicit images on his phone. I pissed the little girl off telling her she ain't got no. That's not against the law, defendant stated. He never used the words. When talking with the detective Cooley, that he also used the words. When asked if they called families if he felt he did nothing wrong, the defendant responded that sometimes people take things the wrong way. I mean, it goes on and on. I'll put the link in the description. Defendant admitted that he made fingering jokes in front of Miss Clark and Miss Newman and stated that both girls laughed. Defendant denied telling SB and AA that he had that he had sex with some of the students when they got older. I do believe that one student wanted to do it with him when he refused because of her age. When he asked why he would have conversations with the juveniles, these types of the defendant answered, because I didn't mean it in a sexual way. I didn't mean it that way. I mean, how often do you see big old 12-foot roosters in somebody's yard? So I pointed it out to them. Defendant denied talking about the victim's breasts, although he admitted to saying that he told one she had no. Again, he goes to, I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but he goes, it's just, here's the link when it was first, when he was first convicted of indecent behavior. And they were 15 and 16 years old. And here's another link. The victims only identified by the initials. Records said that they felt ashamed, embarrassed, and really uncomfortable following the barrage of sexually charged comments and behavior. Lafayette, the attorney said 10 years was excessive for the 2 charges of indecent behavior. He was denied his constitutional rights to a fair trial before an unbiased jury, and there was not enough evidence present in the court trial. Shame on you. If you're paid, if you're an appointed attorney, then fine. That's your role in the system. That's, there's something, it's you doing your job to keep the system the way it is. But if you're paid and you're taking on this client, shame on you. And it was only 5 years. Because of difference, it's like, But, in a sense, I am okay with this 5-year sentence. He didn't actually, it sends the message. It is, it's not, he didn't actually harm them. And I would have been happy with, I'm not as, let me just put it this way. I'm not as enraged. I would have liked to have seen a 10-year sentence, but I'm not as enraged. At least it wasn't probation, I guess is what I'm saying. We've seen so many cases. So like the system did do their best to not just brush this off and not just say, oh, it's the old boys club, and not just, they actually, they went to trial. They wanted to press charges. They went to trial. They, so in that case, I think there should have been at least 10 years, because the idea of 5 years and ability for parole after just like 2, it's, and that he dragged it out. They should have thrown the book at him, because he should have, that I don't understand. But then another part is that, the idea that he went to trial and only, he should have gone 10 full years, actually, because we see people get just so much more time for other things. And he only has to register for 15 years, which is just scary, because he's not going to change in 15 years. Now I get how his defense attorneys probably said, well, no, they probably said, oh, he has no one else came up and said that he did anything wrong, but they did allude to things here. Anyways, I am mumbling quite a bit now, but what I do think is really scary is that he was a police officer for 5 years, and he didn't hold that job. He had another job, like doing maintenance inside homes. Didn't hold that one. Then he does this driving thing, and I believe that he picked it for a very specific reason. And that's a kind of a scary guy. And then when he gets up to his parole hearing, he just doesn't get it. He doesn't think he did anything wrong. It looks like surrounded by enablers that are repeating that mantra to him. And what's crazy is that he just doesn't understand that I guess it's a good thing. He's not bright enough to even know to fake it. He's not like manipulative enough to know that he needs to go to the board and pretend. He's still like, he's just not that sophisticated. He actually showed up thinking that he could just say, whatever, I spoke about a rooster, like the same story that he put at trial. And he's like laughing and giggling, like the immaturity level is so high. It's just disturbing. But he's still locked up according to this record. And 53 years old, and I guess he's going to get out soon. But anyways, please do the YouTube thing. At the very least, if someone wants to Google him, if he's telling someone, no, it's just not true. All I made was a joke, and they Google it and they find the YouTube video and they see, maybe they'll make a better decision. I understand what they're dealing with. But with that, I'll let you go.